All right, hi. This presentation is called Spectral Simulation Theory and Practice. It is a theory by me, and in my opinion, it may already be in practice. And the what I mean by spectral is not etheric, but more of referring to a spectrum, like a spectrum of difficulty in this case. So if you imagine someone placed in several simulations at the same time with different constraints and measuring their performance uh, and studying them based upon different environments. Okay, and that's the basic idea. This woman you're looking at is from the show The Peripheral, and she is in the show. She is it's on Amazon Prime, I think. She is the queen bee of the research institute, and the protagonist of the story is her world is in danger from this woman. This woman is evil, and what's evil about this woman is she has basically created a new universe by going back in time and messing with uh, time so that it created a branch of time, which creates a whole new universe of a whole new alternate reality. And she uses this alternate reality for research purposes in her reality. So instead of viewing the protagonist and all the people in her world as real people and treating them with concern, she instead treats them like rats in a lab and is only trying to gain insight. So she gives like soldiers technology um, to improve them in battle, and this leads, she creates wars so that they can use uh, the technology. And I don't want to go too deep into the plot, but basically, I was fascinated by this show because I loved the idea of what if we are just part of someone else's lab. And I was listening to Joe Rogan this week, and he talked about he had a guest on called I think it was Eric Weinstein, and he was very sophisticated and talking about what he calls the doubly scientific method, which is not only doing science but also imagining that science is being done to you. For example, not just looking down at the rat in the maze that you have constructed and studying it, but also wondering if you yourself are a rat in someone else's maze. Uh, because when we have the rat in the maze, we think of ourselves as uh, so invisible, like so much smarter than the animal that we can make ourselves invisible. We can make artificial reality seem like natural reality to the point where our observations are valid. That is our arrogant assumption. Similarly, we could have aliens above us or gods studying us, arrogantly thinking that we won't notice. But I'm afraid I have. Okay. Now this is Jeff Bezos. I'm going to use him as an example as the richest man in the world, or someone who became the richest man in the world. Someone who has very clear business acumen, and someone who um, would probably become successful in a wide variety of simulations if you split him into 100 AIs and had simulated worlds. Like if you think about simulation theory, the whole idea is that there are all these simulated worlds, and you might wonder why. What is the purpose of these simulated worlds? Why would someone create a simulated world? Well, in Jeff Bezos's case, an economics class of the future could take the mind of just Jeff Bezos if they had the technology, like somehow if he had his consciousness saved, his brain preserved, or if time travel was possible, whatever. They split him up, and they give him a bunch of different economies to conquer, and they watch him conquer them all. Or maybe this is the only perfect world for him where he rose to the top. But it could be the case that you can pull on him a lot harder, push him a lot harder, and he will still make Amazon and make $1 billion, no matter what you do to him. So that would be worth studying if you're an economist or a psychologist or behaviorist, all these things. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Now, another concept I want to put in your mind, and I'm going to try to bring it all together, is from the show His Dark Materials, which is based on the book The Golden Compass. And this character named Lee, he has a daemon, which is a rabbit. And he is friends with the witches. The witches are good in this show, and the witches have a prophecy about the main character, which is a girl named Lyra. And he becomes the protector of Lyra, ends up, I won't give it away, but he protects Lyra. Okay? And the witches tell him, hey, there's a child who's destined to bring the end of destiny. Um, if told what she must do, she will fail. So basically, Lee has to protect the girl without telling the girl why he's doing it. He can't he can't tell her, or it will, according to the prophecy, spoil the fun, and she will not achieve greatness if he tells her that she's going to. She has to do it unknowingly. And the whole time I was watching this show, I was thinking about and pondering the significance of that. Like, why did the author say that? What is it? What is so special about um, she must do so without knowing what she is doing? Why would it matter one way or the other? Uh, if Lyra is destined to, you know, defeat death or bring an end to destiny itself, why does it matter if she is told that or if she isn't? Why is it better if she doesn't know what she's doing? Why is it more impactful when a child does something without realizing its significance than if they truly knew? You know, what's going on there? So I want you to think about that. I'll answer that later. This is Jeff, the famous picture of him trying to get Amazon started. Um, and now you see it on every street corner on a truck, right? It says Amazon. So good for Jeff. I think he originally tried to call it something else that wasn't as good, but I forget the name. Uh, it was something like, it sounds like Barry, or it sounds like a dead body, so he changed it. Something to do with like it being confused with something morbid. But anyway, he changed it to Amazon, and it worked out. So he's my first example I want you to think about. Now, I think consent is really important, and I'll get to that later, because if you have simulations with these AI beings, um, there needs to be an ethics to it, especially if you're doing it with real human consciousness based AI beings, or just a human doing stuff to him. It has to be consensual, to be ethical, and I think ethics is very important and will become even more important as we enter the age of advanced AI and technology. But anyway, if we had his consent, hypothetically, and like imagine he's just a moral, rock star and just says, I'm so good at making money, I would like to donate my brain and split it into a million pieces and let everyone just study how good I am at it. You know what I mean? So everyone can be rich. That type of idea. And if we had the technology to place his 30-year-old self, like before, like in that photo, before, maybe he was 40, but before he made the billions, if we put him in 100 simulations with a spectrum of difficulty, oh crap, how do I go back? Mm, Would he figure out a way to be rich in all of them? Would he ever reach a breaking point and give up on his dream? Like, on what difficulty level does Jeff become a bum? Like, if he just artificially sabotaged every single economic thing he tried, um, at what point does he snap like Walter White and become a meth drug lord? Um, it's just interesting to think about if he even has one. Like, we don't know the potential of man, right? Other than Jesus. All right. Would we gain any new insights into business if he did still succeed with increased difficulty constraints placed on him? If we don't know uh, when a football team wins the Super Bowl by 40, you don't really know how good they are. It's when they win by one in overtime that we truly know how high they could jump. Uh, you know, and that's always interests me about competition. But if we erase Jeff Bezos' memory and put him in an artificially difficult environment, we'd still be able to make a good company. That's kind of repeating myself. If we had a full brain data on him, so yeah, that's important. In my theory, there would be subjects like a Jeff Bezos, and we would have full brain data on him, like very, very sophisticated brain reading technology, because he would be fully consenting to do this to me, measure my brain waves, then do that to me, measure my brain waves. Like, imagine he's like Jason Bourne, just completely dedicating his body to. And I don't think Jeff is, that good of a person or even that legitimate of a business genius. The way this reality's working right now, but this is all hypothetical based on the story at face value of how his rags to riches story is told. But if we erased his memory, if we had brain data on him and had him consent to being a rat in a maze, could we learn more about how to motivate him, like with the brain information and putting him in? You could run the same day in a simulation 150 times in 150 ways and only save, like in Skyrim, like you might enter a bar and it doesn't go how you want, so you reload the checkpoint. And if people outside, imagine the Skyrim character doesn't know that you're reloading the checkpoint. All the Skyrim character knows is that everything in his life has gone a certain way, but he doesn't know that it's also gone 100 different ways that were not saved. So when you wake up tomorrow, you will be opening a saved game, but you don't know how many times you've opened it and failed. It's like that movie that Yema showed me uh, at Oak Forest. Yema and me were watching a movie where a guy is like his wife's like in charge of like a particle accelerator or something, and somehow he becomes uh, living the same day over and over, like live, die, repeat. Uh, the Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise, but like a low budget version of that. That's even better, where he is. It's like a video game, and all these guys are trying to kill him, and he doesn't know why, and they succeed every day um, until he finally beats the game, basically, by being a good father and husband and everything. So um, I have so much to discuss about these ideas, but that's a good movie. Um, Forget what it's called, unfortunately. I think I've written about it before. Is there an optimal environment where the subject would reach his full potential? Perhaps. So this is just a picture with the doubly scientific method, the ability, which is what I was talking about. Eric Weinstein, I think his name was. The ability to consider yourself as a type of a rat in a maze while analyzing a rat in a maze. When we do science, we tend to decide. I already kind of said this. You can pause and read it if you want. But what if we're being studied invisibly? What if what we think is real is only a false reality constructed by the experimenter to gain scientific insights to their own world? And the trippy part is it could be you studying you, and it could be you consenting to your own torture. Like if you are suffering in this world and thinking, how could God do this to me? Well, maybe it's not God, maybe it's you on the outside of this saying, yeah, go ahead, hurt him. If he's going to do that, then he deserves that. Whatever you're doing that's wrong. Or maybe you're doing it all right, but the only suffering we truly know is real is ourselves, our own. Everything else is hearsay. Um, could be true, probably true, but we know our own suffering, and we also know that we deserve it, most of us, to a certain extent. The world is a vampire. Despite all my rage, I'm still just a rat in a cage. So, what if the world is a vampire? And it's like a stub in the show The Peripheral, the book, where that lady is just using it as a research project. And we're just in her little maze, you know. I don't think it's nefarious like that, but I think it's worth thinking about the lyrics of this song in that way. Um, okay, so consent, a higher version of yourself. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. I've already talked about most of this. Is it conceivable that one man would donate his sophisticated mind to science for increased difficulty tasks, ask for himself to be put in a harder and harder maze for the world to learn how he overcame it? Now, for all this theory to work, I'm basically banking on the simulation theory being true, and that would mean that there's a base reality, which is separate from all the simulations. This would be the first reality that created the first computer, the biological reality that God created, in which we created the computers that created all the simulations later. But in the base reality, um, I do think that we are of the time where this happened. I don't think this happened a long time ago. In my opinion, crap, gotta do that thing again. Um, crap, crap. I didn't think I would start on that page. Okay. So, in base reality, imagine. So, okay, first of all, the Mandela effect I really care about. It's basically remnants of base reality and an indicator to me or us that we are in a simulation and something is off. Okay? It just is. Jiffy peanut butter was real. I had it. Fuck off. Okay? So, eat your Jif. I used to eat Jiffy. That's where I'm from. Are you from there? Probably not, but that's where I'm from. Okay? End of discussion. Enough to inspire the mind, but not enough to give it away completely. Like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is. Maybe it has been Jif this whole time. Maybe Fruit of the Loom didn't have a cornucopia. Maybe Pikachu didn't have a black tail. Maybe Darth Vader didn't say, Luke, I'm your father. Maybe that guy didn't say, we're going to need a bigger boat. Maybe if you build it, he will come, and not if you build it, they will come. Maybe, the Volkswagen logo uh, always had a line in the middle separating the V and the W, and it wasn't just one big confusing symbol. Maybe all that's true, but it's enough to get me thinking about it. Okay? It's like a clue, a remnant, because, well, I'll get into that later. It has to do with the maze um, that we're in. But imagine the Truman Show, but only Truman. The difference is Truman consented. See, in the Truman Show, he doesn't know. Everyone is lying to him, but he never chose that life. It's unethical in a sense because his life is a lie, and he doesn't know it, and no one's really they're getting entertained by it. I suppose I haven't watched it in a while, but it drives him crazy. Eventually, he figures it out. gets to the end of the sky or whatever, and he gets out. But imagine if someone like Michael Jordan said, um, "Go ahead and put me in a basketball league where all the refs are against me," or something like that. Like he wanted something extra challenging, and he willingly had his. I mean, that's a bad example. The Michael Jordan's better in other examples, but let's put it to you this way: imagine the acting we would get from Tom Cruise if we artificially failed him for auditions over and over again. Like how 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 good would his auditions start to get, if at all, right? He might just get discouraged. It might be he's in the sweet spot. That's why he's successful. But I'm just positing for scientific purposes, you know, this idea of, what is the optimal difficulty of life? Are we in the if there's only one mode and God made it, then you would have to argue that life is, optimally difficult. Because if making everything easier would get us more growth from mankind, God would have done it that way. Or if making everything harder than it is right now would get us to be a little bit better of people, God would do that. So if God only did it one way, like in base reality, it's optimally difficult. But what I'm suggesting is that we might not be in base reality because there's no Jiffy peanut butter. And Darth Vader said, "No, I am your father," instead of "Luke, I am your father." And the Monopoly Man doesn't have a monocle. And I could go on forever. And in the scene of, whatever, it doesn't matter, but Jaws and the girl look at each other, Dolly, and Dolly doesn't have braces anymore. Like, where the fuck are we? Um, but in my opinion, we're in an artificially difficult simulation of base reality. And base reality is basically heaven. It has become heaven because of the studying being done here. And the time of base reality compared to the time of here is not going to be synchronous. It's going to be completely different. Like they might be in the year 2700 or something by now. I don't know. But anyway, it's like a thought nuclear bomb, all these things. But I just want to drop it on you and see what happens. So, is it ethical to put an AI in a difficult situation to study how it solves the problem? Are we AIs? Like, am I just an AI based on the brain of Max and base reality? And if so, the ethics come into question of us in the future. If you just imagine, no, Max, you're crazy, we're in base reality right now, but AI is coming in 20 years. Well, 20 years from now, if you take a humanoid type AI, a general intelligence capable of feeling, like let's say the only way to figure out general intelligence is to mimic the human as much as possible because we don't understand it. And the more we mimic it, the better it works, right? So then, boom, we create Dolly, and Dolly is kind of the first artificial man, totally AI, but totally man. And is it ethical to torture him? If we could split him into a reality where, gravity is 125% strength and he has to try to play basketball for a living, like things like just like put a bunch of weights on him, um, and it hurts him, but it helps us because we can get good insights from it. Is that ethical? That's what we have to decide, and that's what we have decided, in my opinion. And we we suffer based from our own sin. You know, some religious people in the past would argue that it's from your own sin that you are ill or whatever. But, you could also call that nonsense. And we'll move on. It's just a thought. Uh, but the replicants in the movies, like Blade Runner or any movie like that, they usually don't know that they're clones or a robot. They think they're real. So this is Ryan Gosling from Blade Runner. He's largely considered the best looking man alive or the coolest man alive, and he can get a girl pretty easily. Now, the question is, what if it was harder to get girls for him? What lengths would he go to get them? And what if we made it easier to get girls and you had him live his whole life over? Would he ever become this? And is he in the optimal difficult zone, or is it too easy for him? Like, are we missing out on what this being is capable of? Ryan Gosling might just be capable of, even if you crank the difficulty up to 700%, he could still steal your girl, you know. Um, and I'm not saying you change his appearance or you change his voice or no, you keep him identical. You just construct a false reality around him that he can't quite get. He doesn't know it's a trick, but he is nevertheless placed in situation after difficult situation, and you're kind of taking away his girl every time he gets one, and then studying how he gets the next one. And would he excel to new heights, or would he see through Would he be like, something's not right here? Why are these girls not? Because you would have to have him have a base consciousness based on real experiences, and then fractal him, like split him up when he's 35 or something, or whenever you have the technology, whenever the optimal point of splitting them up is. But you give him a base set of knowledge, and then you split them up into different scenarios, different. You put Michael Jordan on different teams, and you see how many championships does he win if he was drafted by, the Timberwolves. Um, but you could also, without any technology, without any simulation, you could simply have a CIA project around Ryan Gosling where you tap every girl on the shoulder that he gets with, and you say, "Excuse me, miss, you don't realize how important Mr. G is here. We study him and learn from him, and we actually need you to break up with him, or we need you to move away and come up with an excuse to not see him anymore that he believes, so that he can keep going. Because if you don't, he will just settle down with you, and the fun's over. We don't get to learn anymore about how an alpha male does what he does. Okay? Because the alphas, like in the movie Edge of Tomorrow, the alphas are different. You have the regular aliens that are fucking awesome and kill everyone, and then you have these special aliens. And I would argue that there's something different about Ryan Gosling compared to the average man. So much so that he might be from another planet. Like yes, we're the same species, but there's something worth studying about the guy who gets the girl. Okay? Because what better indicator of superiority than selection from you know you can do the economic route with Jeff Bezos or all these different things, but in this particular instance, um, what would happen if you uh, constructed a Truman Show around him where he just didn't know, and you just were videotaping everything and learning from getting insight, you know? How good was Sherlock Holmes? Like, if you imagine he was a real person, what if you constructed a crime scene that was so impossible, almost impossible to detect, and he could still figure it out? It's like, wow, right? He's a good detective. We don't know how good Ryan is at getting girls until you put him on a desert island with 1,000 men and only one girl. Then would he still win? You know? And what if some of the men were robots? Would he still win? He probably would. Like, this is a being that is important to study, in my opinion. Anyways, Tom Brady. How many different career paths could you throw at Tom Brady and MJ and they would still end up champions? What if you did a simulation where MJ got traded or never played with another All Star? Would he still get one? Would he be better or worse? What if you made Tom Brady artificially down 28 to 3 at halftime, and you just plugged him into that simulation at halftime? Would he be able to come back? Like, in other words, was that even him playing in the first half? Or was he simply, waked up? There's a religion that's a joke, but I find interesting, called Last Thursdayism, which is the universe was created last Thursday. Everything before then is a memory that was artificially implanted into you last Thursday. And nothing is real other than God created the world last Thursday, and today's Thursday. So nothing else exists other than you woke up this morning with the belief that the past is real, but it actually isn't, and all you have is today, and everything was. Uh, but anyway, you could just wake Tom Brady up at halftime and say, "Hey, you're down 23 at halftime. Here's a memory in your uh, an implanted memory of what just happened in the first half that the audience has also been implanted with, and it's gonna not set off any alarms because it's gonna make sense. Like your play caller chose the wrong plays. Like all these stars aligned for you to be down 28 to 3 at halftime. Can you come back?" I think it was third quarter. But anyway, um, it's just fun to think about. What it like another example, like what if you gave MJ the flu? Could he still get you 30? Well, yeah, he did. And was that just science of base reality, you know what I mean, or the future, or I mean, it was legit, right? It's legit. I'm just putting that thought in your head of like, what if that had never happened and Michael Jordan never got sick and all people could do was wonder? Well, what if he felt bad? Would he still be able to? Yep, the answer has been answered. Uh, anyway, these two guys are probably already in their optimal forms. Like, it couldn't have gone any better. Like, with Tom Brady, you think of his path. One of the reasons he's so good is because he was a backup and he was trying to prove it every day. He was a backup in college, he was a backup in the pros. So that's what part of what makes him so great. But you could also argue that Tom Brady was the best quarterback ever in another universe. And they took him and they said, let's put you in a situation where it's almost impossible to make the NFL and it's almost impossible to start. And we'll transfer a kid to your college that starts over you. We'll put you on a team with Drew Bledsoe. We'll do all these things. And still, Tom Brady made it out. And he's just a force of nature, because does reality form around the man? See, this is a philosophy of alpha males and kind of and human beings. And what I'm because women are special too. They're even more special in a different way. But what I'm saying is the smartest men in the world, like or man in the world with CTMU, Christopher Langan is suggesting that we produce the world. Consciousness produces the universe. And, you know, Tom Brady, Michael Jordan created the Bulls winning all those titles, if you put him on a different team, he would also win all those titles. And he would reshape the entire history of the NBA just to be the best. So, see, is it inevitable that they are winners? Like, can you imagine Michael Jordan as a loser? Or is it true that if you ran 100 simulations, he would win every single time? Because it's just some ineffable essence of a human being, of a man, where, um, I'll speak for men, I'll have a woman speak for women one day, but, you know, does does reality form around them, or do they form around the reality that we would try to construct around them? Um, my instinct tells me that the essence of man is that reality forms around him, and no matter what simulation you put him in, their life force, uh, no matter what simulation you put their life force in, they would have the ability to rise above it and become champions. That's just a thought. Anyway, there's the alpha rat experiment, thought experiment, which is imagine you're a scientist and you have noticed that one of your rats in a maze gets the cheese versus the other rats. And you've reconstructed the maze, you've tried different things. One rat is clearly superior and just figures out a way to get the cheese every time, right? So now it occurs to you, what if I put in robot rats that are faster and did the same race? And the alpha rat, the best of the rats, still beats you, still wins. Is studying the alpha rat more rewarding with the robot on the robot run or the regular run? Like, does the way that the rat figures out how to get the cheese improve when you improve his competition, when you artificially inflate um, his competition? Think of an alpha horse. So you have the first horse that finishes, okay, and it's racing at a time of 1 minute, and it's the fastest horse. If you then trick the horse by having a robot horse that is indistinguishable and it runs at 59 seconds, and you run it back, you revert reality to the same exact race, but now you have a robot running 59 seconds. Does the alpha horse finish with 58 seconds? And if so, can you study what its true potential is? Um, you know, because maybe you just run a little bit faster when you need to win. It's interesting to think about, isn't it? We don't really know how fast the fastest horse is until you get a faster horse that's fake, and then you see where the alpha horse really caps out. Um. Anyway, this is a pretty girl, and I'm talking about alpha males and females. Um, if my theory is correct, you could identify the 100 most wanted females in the world. So that doesn't just mean beautiful, that means attractive in every way. Funny, smart, whatever a guy wants. Women are what a guy wants, and a woman who has many suitors, uh, when she decides, I want you, I choose you, Ryan Gosling, or whoever it is, that says more about the man than just about anything else. Like, we can dance around it, but the fact of the matter is, this right here is what men want, and she, through a mythical process, decides who gets what they want. And very few men get what they want, because there's few women that look like this. And anyway, she she decides who is worth studying. I don't know who's worth studying. I just know what I want. And if you look at what I want and you ask her, who do you want? That's who I want to study in the sense of science. Like, I'm not kidding around here. I want to take their brain and, like, analyze it because I don't think we're doing a good job. Like, or at least I didn't when I was 18 and I looked at the world and I looked at the height of the buildings on my drive home from a Laker game with a pretty girl like this, and I thought to myself, is this the best we can do, humanity? If you artificially separate the male from the female, you take this girl away from the guy who won the war and got her. Because it is a war, ladies. Trust me. There are many men that want her, and she only wants one of them. And the one that she chooses has won the war to the other men. And the man is beyond overjoyed. Okay? And then if you take that away from him and study how the man gets her back, uh, or gets a new girl, if you just watch him recalibrate and hunt. Like, I feel that the alpha males, it's so in their nature to achieve this type of woman that it's like the cheese and the rat, where no matter what you do with the maze, no matter where you put the cheese, these alpha males are so incredibly powerful that they will find their way back to the cheese. And the question is, can how much dancing can you do with the cheese? Can you remove the cheese, put it back, um, change all the walls, and do all these things? Um, how far can you stretch that alpha until you truly get the most for science's sake? Um, anyway, the girls, in some scenarios, the girls would have to all work together and be able to avoid the alpha males. It would have to be like a secret society of women that are badass and kind of like manipulating the alphas. And you can think of the alphas as like the batteries of like base reality almost. Um, but anyway, the girls would all be like working together in one of those ways of pulling that off. But you could also just have artificial humans. If you look at deep learning and deep fake technology and where things are going, it wouldn't be that hard to 15 years from now take Ryan Gosling's offspring and put them into situations in the real world, which isn't the real world in my opinion, but in this world, and you could have these fake pretty girls come up to him and put him down or run away from him or whatever, and you could get a lot of energy out of that Gosling offspring or something. I don't know. It's nonsense, but it's also original of an idea that I'm having, and I'm curious if anyone thinks it has any scientific validity. Because I'm going to try to keep articulating it until it makes sense. But so, because it comes down to women, it just does. Because they are what, you know, they are the prize at the end of the maze, in my opinion. All right, so a rat in a maze with moving cheese and walls. Would the rat still find the cheese if it ran away? Da 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 da. Or would he just give up and die? Uh, you know, do you let him find the cheese and then take it away so he doesn't get fat and complacent? Um, but you give him enough. You put the carrot on the stick enough that you know, you optimize. You have a whole team working around this energy that, like, the alpha male contains an energy that if you harness it, it's like an atomic bomb. It's an alpha bomb, basically. is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about weaponizing the swagger of Blade Runner 2049. I'm talking about weaponizing the winning mentality of Michael Jordan and putting it in a bottle in a lab, you know, or having a team of scientists like really harness the full potential of these winners. All right. If you never gave a Fields Medal to a brilliant mathematician, and there was a conspiracy to never acknowledge his work, would he eventually make a work so great that it had to be acknowledged, or he would discover the conspiracy? So, for example, if you have this brilliant mathematician, let's call him Joe, and Joe is in a Truman Show because everyone knows he's brilliant and is putting him in a situation where it's harder than it should be just to see if he can produce even more brilliance. And, would he figure it out? And, you know, if he disproved gravity and he could explain it, and everyone he showed it to knew couldn't even fake it, uh, you know, well, eventually it would occur to him, hey, this might be a trick being played on me. Like if you, for example, if it's a beauty competition and you are beautiful and you lose and you come in last place and everyone else is an old woman or even a man and you're like this young, beautiful girl who's been called beautiful her whole life, has an internal knowledge, you have a mirror, you have books about symmetry and all these things and teeth being attractive, and none of the women have teeth, but they have won first prize, second prize, and third prize, and you didn't win at all. It might occur to the woman, hey, something isn't right here. So she might start to question the competition itself rather than try to be more beautiful. She might give up on trying to be more beautiful and say, hey, there's something. So if you do that with a brilliant scientist, he might give up trying to, make a discovery and start to analyze the scientific community itself, right? He might cease to do science within the scientific community and start to do science without it. And that is what Eric Weinstein, maybe it was Brett Weinstein, one of the Weinsteins on Joe Rogan, I think it was Eric, said that about academics is that true academia can only be done outside of academia, is the way he put it. And he said he learned that early on, and so did I, and so does everyone that is smart. But you probably won't believe me. But yeah, it's a thought, right? It's a thought. It's a thought that counts, right? Uh, Elon Musk, another fable, but if you take it at face value and you put his brain in a simulation, uh, would he still be able to be smart? Um, Imagine you take a math prodigy and you put him in a college course with like it's like a psychology experiment. Like you put him with a bunch of prodigies that are pretending to be normal students. You could stick them in a community college class or probably just a college course, and you could allow the other prodigies to cheat, but and use calculators or whatever. But you could do this with a chess player. You could do this with all sorts of things. But telling him that it's a regular course. You tell him everyone's doing better than him on the test. You grade him on a curve. You keep giving him D's even though he's answering problems that are unanswerable, and then the teacher's just really hard on him, and you put all these impossible questions on a test just to see what his answers are, in an environment where he thinks he's expected to know the answer, and that there is an actual answer, and then you learn based on his answers to the impossible questions. And I can tell you um, from personal experience that I invented calculus on a pre-calculus test, and my teacher took me outside and was like, what are you, like, how did you do that? Like, what are you doing here? And, what college are you going to? And I was like, oh, I'll go to Santa Cruz. Like, I have a good SAT score. Like, I'll be fine. Like, and, she's like, why aren't you in, like, honors math or something? Like, no one should be able to do it. You just did. Like, I put that question there just to see what people would, like, do, and you actually, like, got it right. And, like, I was like, yeah, well, I've had countless experiences like that with teachers or with coaches or whatever, like, to let me know that I'm not a normal person. I just have. It's a real story. And anyway, the way I found out later, what calculus is calculus is like x is in between something and something else, and you get closer and closer. It's like the limits. And she basically asked me on the pre-calculus test an impossible question, and I gave her an exact answer, which is x is between this number on the left and this number on the right. And then I did that over and over again until the number on the left and the number on the right were getting more and more precise and more closer together, to the point where I was bordering on certainty. And that's what calculus is. It's kind of like approximation and increasing, uh, you know, toggling between wrong and wrong until you're right, toggling between left and right until you're center. So I was like, well, I know x is greater than 0, and I know x is less than a million. And then I just kept doing that and doing math within math within math until I was like, x is right here as you approach these two numbers. Whatever. The point is, she was blown away, and I found out later it was calculus, but it doesn't matter. Is my bias infecting my theory? Maybe, but at least I won't be unoriginal. Okay, so here's where I lose you, but I will keep going just for the faithful few from the future. Okay, so my plan in 19 um, is I'm driving home with my girlfriend from the Lakers game. Life is good, and it occurred to me, you know, to do this whole plan. Everything I'm talking about right now at 31, with all these examples and you know you think about Ender's Game, how he doesn't know. I'll get into that later, but he doesn't know he's saving the world when he is saving the world. Um, he thinks he's training or whatever, but he's actually doing it. Anyway, my plan at 19 is I had this thought. I thought about the alpha male and female and the energy created by artificially separating them and reuniting them, like in the Matrix revolutions or resurrections, when the analyst Patrick Neil Harris is talking about the connection between the one and the Trinity, and the one and the girl, his love, and basically saying if they it's the two of them together, it's the alpha male and the alpha female, the positive and the negative, the male and the female energy, that the dark energy and the matter, the antimatter, but this connection between male and female is important, to say the least, because my theory at 19 years old was I looked at my girlfriend and I was like, I gotta tell you a secret. I like you and I don't like anything else. You know what I mean? Like if you left, I would, like, I don't know what I would do. Like if I stay with you, I know what I'll do, which is nothing. But if you leave, God only knows like what I'm gonna do. Um, it'll be much more interesting and beneficial to society, if it's done in such a way that is monitored and seen by all in base reality. So I had all this occur to me on a drive home, and I turned to my girlfriend and said, I have a crazy theory I gotta tell you. If I'm wrong, if we test this theory out and I'm wrong, tell me, we'll laugh, we'll have a beer about it, we'll live happily ever after. But if I'm right, don't tell me. Just try to trick me and then study me. That was the gist of my thought is if I'm right about this, you have to completely trick me. And you know what I mean? But because it's all my plan, it's all my theory. We either have already done it or we will do it. Either way, I'm responsible. I'm saying it right now. No one else has ever said this. So, but this was my plan at 19 years old. I said, hey, go to the police station, use your whatever feminine abilities you have, use everything at your disposal, absolutely everything. This is deathly serious. This is existentially important to the entire fate of the planet Earth and human race and cosmos. Everything depends on this. So if you're the most beautiful woman in the world, then that means I'm the smartest man in the world, which means you need to go to the police station and use your most beautiful powers to get all of the to get a male officer's attention and have him connect you to the CIA. Please him and then tell him your boyfriend has a theory and wanted you to listen to it and knew you wouldn't unless you had a reason to. So there's your reason. Now listen. Now connect me to the CIA and do this again and again. Recruit other women if you have to. And then form a team to artificially construct a life around me that provides insight into the human mind. I consent you to kill me, torture me, bullet in my head, whatever you got to do, brain in a vat, don't care. I just got to give this away. I got to give, I got to share this gift that I have that got me you. I'm pretty confident that my my journey is over at 19. Like, yes, I could go do all these things that people want me to do, but the truth is, I got you and I'm done. So do this, and then if I'm wrong, try this out. If I'm wrong, then we'll laugh about it. I'll live my life like normal. But if I'm right, puts us in a really interesting situation um, where we can benefit the rest of humanity because it's our responsibility. If and I don't think we're the only alpha male and alpha female, but I do think we might have been the first. We maybe there is an alpha of alphas, right? But no, my instinct is that there are men greater than me, there are women greater than her that can be found in other areas of the world, or they could have had this idea before me and had an organization ready to take me in, waiting, and they're waiting for men to make their own decision. I don't know, maybe it's my organization, maybe it's someone else's, but the idea was original from me. Um, and I said, you have to leave me, but I have to believe it. I have to fall for it. It can't be, I can't know. If I know, then it doesn't work, right? But if Lyra knows that she is going to save the world, she can't save the world. She can only save the world if she doesn't know. Remember what I said with the golden compass and her dark materials and the witch's prophecy? So I might not be worth studying, me personally. It just might be my bias infecting my own theory about all this. But I might not be that virtuous either to want to donate the quality of my life to others, to share what I had. But I know for a fact that I at least had the thought, I at least had the plan, and it explains a lot. Find others like me, more alphas, better alphas, get their consent to erase their memory of their consent, and then live a Truman Show life for the good of mankind. Okay? Crazy fucking shit. But at the same time, I think it would work. I think we should give it a try if we haven't already. So, but if this is happening, my my I've come to understand or theorize that you know you have to be able to don't think I'm crazy here. This is just a thought experiment. But I would say you have to, if I am believing this, I'd say you have to give me clues. Like, I think there's a team around me. Like, I'm sort of just the guinea pig. And I don't actually think this is the case. It's more of a, if this were the case, this is how I think it would work. It would have to give me the hints at the right times, nudge me in the right directions if I'm too far off my path, and you're getting nothing from studying me other than, you know, uh, bad things, then nudge me back on the right path. If you gotta come down to earth and give me a audio tape, you do that. Come down to my simulation and tell me what I'm doing wrong, and then give me examples from my life in your thing, and then whatever. Lyra from the Golden Compass is a little girl responsible for the fate of the world, but can only save it if she's unaware of the significance of what she's doing. I was told by Christian, my friend at Oak Forest, that Lord Azrael reminded him of me and my like war against heaven or the Illuminati or whoever. So I watched the show and I've been musing, and I used to read the book, and I've been musing on the significance of her not knowing what she's doing, somehow having a greater impact. And then you have Doctor Strange, who looks forward and backward in time, and he views all the scenarios where Thanos wins, in all of them except one. And the only one that beats Thanos is the one that Iron Man doesn't know what Doctor Strange knows. So Doctor Strange knows that he has to tell he can't tell Iron Man that Iron Man is the one who's going to defeat Thanos at the last second. He knows that if he tells Iron Man that, Iron Man will get cocky and screw it up or whatever. Well, I don't exactly know the reason, but the idea is that he says, now, this is the moment, Tony. So I'll tell you, if I tell you how we win, we won't. He tells him at the right moment. Then Iron Man sacrifices his life at the proper time for the one scenario where the good guys win. Thanos is inevitable, almost inevitable, but he is not Iron Man. Mankind is special in that we can win. Think of Ender's Game. The test was the fight. Um, so this life, as above, so below. Like, the war of heaven might be now. Like, we, this might be it. You think you're just living this insignificant life, but that's the beauty of it. Lyra doesn't realize she's saving the world. That's what makes saving the world more uh, impactful or beautiful or powerful. Ender thinks he's in his final training mission, and he thinks that his training master has given him an impossible task with a bunch of aliens around like one ship. But really, the master is managing a real war against aliens and using Ender's superior intelligence to win the war. And he constructs a scenario where Ender thinks he is playing in a practice, and he does things that he wouldn't do. He risks the lives of people that he wouldn't risk as a real general, because he would be clouded by maybe the significance of sacrificing real humans. Like, if you think you're just playing a game of chess, you might be more effective. So that's this beauty of Lyra not knowing that she's saving the world, or me not knowing that I'm in a alpha program of the Illuminati or whatever. Um, the beauty of it is, if that's true, you're even more powerful. You're even more, the unknowing Ender is even better. Otherwise, he would just tell him, "Hey, this is the real fight." No, because I could speculate all the reasons why he doesn't tell Ender that this is the real fight. But the beauty of this book is you finish the final training mission, and now you're ready to fight the bad guys. And then he tells you, you already fought them. You know, so it's possible. You get up to heaven and you say, all right, what do you need, God? And God says you already did it. Something like that. But am I saving the world without realizing it? Are you? Was I the first person to come up with this plan, or is there an organization? Da, da, da. How does this relate to what Christ says? How do you say God in Aramaic, what Jesus spoke? Here's Lyra with her boyfriend that cuts like a knife between worlds. So the fate of the world is on a female, and she is protected by a male who has the ability to slip universes. And I think that sometimes I feel like I have the ability to pray before I go in somewhere and kind of like have everything go well instead of bad, or like I feel like I can wake up in a new world, um, or I can also go backwards. But like so the knife, is something that might be a masculine thing, and then the fate of the world is decided by the woman without realizing it. Um, like a girl thinks she's just picking her boyfriend, but really she's picking like the fucking holy grail of like energy. Is like a male pursuing a female. Why did any society that isn't harnessing that sexual energy, like if our society is just putting that sexual energy down, like how dare you, toxic masculinity? No, 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 no. If you imagine a society that celebrates masculinity as opposed to calling it toxic, and truly embraces and celebrates the energy that is masculinity, you could have flying cars and all this shit. I'm telling you, clean energy, time travel, it's all possible if we embrace the masculine energy instead of putting it down and demonizing it as toxic. All right, so why did Christ stress to treat others like you're treating yourself? Are you truly everyone at once? And this could be taken literally. Is there truth behind that advice, or is it just the nice thing to do? Um, do unto others as you would have done unto you. I've always had this sneaking feeling that that's to be taken literally, and you really do experience the pain you cause others one way or another. It has this poetic way of coming back to you, like divine poetic justice. And you don't get away with anything. And when you're hurting someone, you might live their entire life. Like after your life, you live their entire life. And everything that you did to them, like if you put someone in a bunker and keep them as a slave your whole life, well, guess what? Your next life is them. And you're being kept as a slave by yourself the whole time. And it's like you get up to heaven and God says, like that book by Andy Weir, the short story The Egg, where he says, oh, yep, that's you, that was you, that was you, you killed you raped you loved you, it was all you, and you're just an egg, or the universe is an egg, etc. So this is an interesting way to think. And this is me just being crazy, saying I noticed that the Aramaic word for God, some guy was trying to make a point, like a Muslim was trying to make a point that Jesus spoke in Aramaic, and the Aramaic word for God is Allah, but it actually is Elah, and it just reminded me of Elam, Elah, but it's not that close to be honest. But ELA, there's something magical going on. Elah, God magic, Elam. So, lunacy or scientific efficacy, the spectral simulation theory and practice, the purposeful simulations with varied difficulties, the Alpha program or secret society. The Illuminati was created as part of a threat that our AI has to deal with. Like, if you think of, just think of the most brilliant person ever, and you put him into a world where there's this grand conspiracy that he has to try to expose, and it's an incredibly tall task, and you see if he can pull it off. Sometimes I can't shake the feeling that that's that's where I am. That's what I'm doing. How can one man with no external validation, against impossible odds, liberate a society against a world dominating conspiracy. Is it even possible? Let's find out. Reality, getting her back, Elam. I won't even mention her, but you see it in the word reality. Is this the best we can do as a society? Or can we do better? Would we benefit by throwing men that are willing to take on the challenge into these impossible arenas? Because, like, any man who is successful and getting everything he has for his family, he's like killing it. Well, to me, you're just pitiful because you should be suffering in a sense that you should have volunteered to share. You should have looked at the state of the world and the begging and the hunger and all the bad pollution and everything, and you should have said, you know what? I'm so much more superior than whatever race is responsible for all of this that I need to, the moral thing to do is to um, give myself for the good of others. And it's like, it's almost like if you think of ants on a, you think of humans on a world, and then you have like sprinkled in gods from comets. And all these gods came down like falling stars, like were fallen angels. And as the alpha males of this world, as the fallen angels, we can either get with the women or we can sacrifice the women, not them, but sacrifice ourselves, getting with the women to share our divine power with the world, and by giving what we most want up and following Jesus or whatever the way you look at it, um, just by giving what we most want up for the good of everyone, um, it might be the test of life for us fallen angels. Um, and anyone who is just saying, no, I want the women, I'm just going to dominate all you other plebeians, well, you know, God's not going to be too happy when you get up to heaven and he says, I gave you 200% intelligence, 200% strength, 300% good looks, and look what you did with it. You didn't share any of it. You used it all for your own gain. You pretended to be a good person, but I know your innermost thoughts. I know the decisions you made, and you didn't share it. You didn't sacrifice yourself. You didn't you didn't go to the government and say, "Hey, I might be smarter than everyone because I'm taking all their money with my business practices and it's effortless for me and this life is so easy and other people are suffering and what's wrong with this picture, you know? You just let it happen and you're a bad person." Like, it's possible, guys. I don't think it's chill to be a billionaire and watch people starve. I don't. I think you're evil. Like, do I want more money? Yes, but I don't want that much more money. I want to uh, give what success I found early on to the whole world. And I might be out of my mind, but I'm within my morals. And you know, where are the true heroes who make it harder on themselves to make it easy, as make it as hard on themselves as possible to make it easier for everyone else who wasn't given a deck of aces? This is God's game. He waits and rejoices for when his uber powerful creation makes a conscious decision to try to share his power. And imagine how disappointed he was when he created Lucifer, and Lucifer tried to use his power for his own gain and circumvent God, usurp God, rather than maybe share it with the other angels or something like that. He used it to manipulate the other angels, to try to be like God. And imagine his rejoicing when Jesus did what he did. Do I believe what I'm saying is true for my own life? Not necessarily. It's important to remain grounded in this reality, false or not. I understand life may just be difficult and all that jazz, but hey, why not just tell Lyra the fate of the world is in her young hands? Because doing something when you think no one's watching makes it even more meaningful and powerful and even more pleasing to God who's always watching. For your Father sees what is done in secret, Jesus said, and he will reward you for what is done in secret. You know, um, the eye, the all seeing eye of the Illuminati, is simply a symbol of God always seeing everything I'm doing. I used to imagine myself as on a TV show, and when I was like 8 years old, I used to think of all the girls in my class gathering around on sleepovers. Maybe I was 13, it's hard to tell or whatever. But I used to imagine them, they had a magic device where they could watch the lives of different men, different boys at their school, and get to see everything. And they kept this knowledge secret. And it's funny because that thought experiment did extremely well for me because when you behave as though someone's always watching, um, you end up being a great man, and they end up liking you. And women have this secret ability, anyways, to always talk and gossip with each other, and they basically know what you're doing before you're doing it, and they know what you've done before you think you've told them. And if you live as if though you're being watched when you're not, it's a good practice. And anyway, the whole world of heaven is watching. Base reality might be heaven. I might be like Jesus. This life is my crucifixion, but I'm not Jesus. I'm Elam, and I'm never giving up. Even if the whole world tells me otherwise, I have truth within myself from God, and with that knowledge, I will form my opinions of myself and how I'm doing. I don't care what people tell me, if I'm doing a good job or not, or if my song is good, or if my website is coded properly, or I'm doing the best I can, and I base my validation on internal compasses. The golden compass is your internal moral compass, and I know how I'm doing. Um, I think I can do a lot better, and that life is fair. My life is fair. My suffering is what I signed up for. I'm ready to give my life for Jesus. Jesus said, "Follow me," and that's what Elam's gonna do. Do I think I'm better than you? Do I think I'm better than me? No. I think I am you. I think you are me. I think I'm a part of you. I'm a part of you. You're a part of me. I think we're all a part of something. Do I think my heart is better than my liver? If anything, I think I'm worse than you because I was given more and have achieved less with it. I try to think of it more as incomparable. Like, like you need both to live. The body of Christ needs you as much as it needs me. But I might be a different body part than you. I have a different purpose. My purpose is to come up with this shit and do it and live it. And it's just funny because the beauty is, even if I'm wrong, you know, believing this, that's one way to live. And no one can take that away from me if I honestly believe it. We are different expressions of love. I love you and you love me. We're a happy family. We're all in this together. I suffer if you suffer, and I feel good when you feel good. I may have already won individually, but I want us to win collectively. I only win when we all do. God only wins when we all win. God wants to share his prize. God is a cheerful giver. God loves a cheerful giver. Salah. And this is Lord Azrael, who reminded Christian, notice the synchronicity of the word Christian, of Elam, and I am Elam Apla, which is alpha male in reverse, and I will win the war, my war for all of us, and I will create Cloudland, and create a better world. Cloudland is the merging of heaven and earth and the society that I plan on creating that is free from the corruption and of false flag terrorism and monetary exploitation and um, fake news and poison and all these bad things. But I will die. I will create Cloudland and create a better world, or I will die trying. And at least I can say to death, I gave everything I had.